I've probably killed 100 ants in my life without thinking twice about it.
You probably have too.
One crosses the kitchen counter, you grab a paper towel, problem solved. Day continues.
But here's the thing that changed how I see them. Somewhere out there, right now, an animal 50 times the size of an ant is backing away from one.
Not a swarm, not an army, one single ant.
And honestly, the first time I heard that, I assumed someone was exaggerating.
Turns out, they weren't. Once you find out why, you're going to look at your kitchen floor a little differently.
Because ants didn't survive millions of years by getting bigger. They survived by getting weird.
Some disappeared entirely.
Some turned a whole colony into one giant organism.
And some turned their own bodies into weapons that predators never forget.
Today, we're going on a tour of the ant world. From the one hiding in your cupboard right now, to the one nature basically built to be unforgettable.
If you could have one superpower, I'd bet a lot of you would pick invisibility. No judgment. I would too.
Nobody sees you. Nobody knows where you are. And let's be honest, most people's first move with that power would not be heroic.
Don't pretend. Well, evolution beat us to it by about 100 million years. Meet the ghost ant. Pale, almost see-through legs. A body so small it barely registers as a shape.
It's probably walked across your counter and you never noticed.
This ant is small, fragile, and has zero interest in fighting anybody.
So instead of building better weapons, evolution gave it the ultimate defense.
Don't be seen.
Its color makes it nearly impossible to spot. Its size lets it squeeze through gaps other insects can't even attempt.
Picture a jumping spider, which has some of the sharpest eyesight in the insect world, scanning a wall for movement.
It clocks a fly instantly.
A ghost ant walks directly past its front legs.
The spider doesn't flinch. Not because it's a bad hunter, because there was nothing there worth flinching at. I genuinely don't know whether to find that impressive or a little unsettling. While bigger, tougher ants are out there getting into turf wars, this one is already inside your pantry, completely unbothered. Rule 1 of evolution: the strongest competitor doesn't always win. Sometimes the winner is just the one nobody can find. But hiding only works if you're alone. So what happens when ants stop hiding completely and decide the best defense is showing up in the millions? Meet the Argentine ant. On its own, this thing is nothing special. No big jaws, no nasty venom, no dramatic backstory. One-on-one, it loses to almost everything. And honestly, I'd feel bad for it if it weren't about to prove me wrong. Evolution asked a different question here. What if the individual just doesn't matter?
Argentine ants build cooperative super colonies that can stretch for miles, with millions of workers that treat each other like family instead of rivals, which is genuinely unusual for ants.
In parts of California, researchers have watched native harvester ants nearly twice the size, try to defend their nests.
One harvester ant can kill several Argentine ants in a matter of seconds. Its jaws are not the problem. The problem is that for every ant it kills, 10 more show up behind it, like the world's least fun video game, the one where you can't ever actually get to the ending screen. Within days, the harvester colony is just gone. Not beaten in a fight, buried under numbers it could never kill fast enough. They don't win because one ant is tougher. They win because their enemy is fighting one soldier and they're fighting an entire civilization. Evolution didn't make this ant a better fighter. It made it a better teammate, which, if you've ever worked on a group project, you know is honestly the harder skill.
But an army isn't the only way to win a fight.
Some ants figured out how to skip the fighting part entirely and go straight to chemistry. Somewhere in your backyard, there's probably a small dirt mound you've walked past 100 times without a second thought. Looks harmless. Looks like nothing.
Step too close, and you're about to learn a very fast lesson in small doesn't mean harmless. Fire ants aren't famous for being big. They're famous for what happens the second one of them decides you're a threat.
One ant sounds the alarm, and within seconds, you've got a small, extremely motivated crowd that did not RSVP, but showed up anyway.
But the real weapon isn't the crowd. It's what they're carrying. Here's the problem they were working with. Too small to fight, too small to overpower anything. Size was never going to be their advantage. So evolution went with Plan B.
If you can't outmuscle your enemy, make touching you a mistake they only make once.
Their sting delivers a burning pain that feels exactly like the name suggests, which is either great branding or a really unfortunate coincidence.
Picture a young lizard snapping one up off the ground the way it's caught 100 other bugs without incident. This time it drops the ant almost immediately, shaking its head, backing off like it just touched a hot stove.
That lizard is going to avoid anything that looks, moves, or smells like a fire ant for the rest of its life. One lesson: permanent memory.
A tiny insect just taught a much bigger animal a lesson it will never forget, and did it without lifting a single weight in its life.
But what happens when an ant evolves to not need backup at all?
Every team has that one person who doesn't really need the team.
The one who shows up to group projects, does their part perfectly, and quietly makes everyone else look unnecessary.
Every ant colony, apparently, has one too.
Deep in the forests of Australia, one ant skips the group project entirely and hunts alone.
The Bulldog Ant. While most ants are relying on scent trails and teamwork, this one went full special forces. Big eyes, fast reflexes, serious jaws. A sting that will absolutely ruin your afternoon, and possibly your week.
This neighborhood is full of solo predators that don't care how many ants are nearby, only whether the one in front of them can fight back.
So instead of investing in numbers, evolution invested everything into one very capable individual. Sharper eyesight, faster reactions, a more accurate strike.
Watch what happens when a wasp dives toward a bulldog ant guarding its nest.
Smaller ants would scatter, understandably, because that's usually the smart move.
This one doesn't.
It tracks the wasp's shadow with those oversized eyes, times it perfectly, and meets it head-on before the wasp even lands. No backup, no hesitation, just one ant deciding calmly that today is not the day.
This ant doesn't overwhelm anyone.
It studies. It calculates. It strikes.
Some ants survive because there are millions of them.
This one survives because it, personally, is already a problem, and it knows it.
But nature saves its best trick for the creature that doesn't even look like a threat.
In fact, it looks kind of adorable, which is exactly the trap.
Quick life lesson, free of charge. Don't judge anything by how cute it looks.
Enter the Panda Ant. Black and white, fuzzy. Genuinely looks like something you'd see on a phone case or a kid's backpack.
Now, plot twist. Scientifically speaking, this isn't an ant at all. It's actually a wingless wasp playing the ultimate evolutionary prank. And losing its wings was a massive problem, because most wasps solve their problems by simply flying away.
This one can't. So evolution had to write a brand new plan. Don't run. Make running unnecessary.
Its exoskeleton is so ridiculously tough that predators genuinely struggle to crush it. And if they manage to bite down anyway, they meet a stinger so brutal, it earned this creature the nickname cow killer in the southern U.S.
And for the record, no, it doesn't actually kill cows. I checked. That's just really, really aggressive marketing.
If it gets cornered, it can even squeak out an eerie, high-pitched stridulation sound, literally screaming a warning to back off.
A curious bird or animal that grabs one usually regrets it twice. Once for the rock-hard armor, once for the agonizing sting.
That's why it walks around in broad daylight, completely unbothered, practically strolling.
Is wearing a sign that says, "I look harmless, I promise I am not."
Sometimes, survival isn't about disappearing.
Sometimes it's about making sure whatever notices you deeply regrets it.
But there's one ant left that takes this entire idea to its most extreme conclusion.
An insect with a name that does all the heavy lifting.
Deep in the rainforests of Central and South America, there's an ant that's become internationally famous for exactly one reason.
Not its size, although at over 2 centimeters, it's not exactly small.
Not its colony, which isn't particularly massive.
One thing: pain.
The bullet ant.
Its venom has been compared to the feeling of being shot, which is, weirdly, a terrifyingly accurate way to name an insect.
Entomologists have ranked its sting at the very top of the Schmidt Pain Index, ahead of wasps, ahead of scorpions, ahead of basically everything else with a stinger.
And no, I did not test this myself. I have priorities.
Here's the strange thing about the bullet ant, though.
It doesn't need to be the strongest ant in this story. It doesn't need the biggest colony, the fastest strike, or the toughest armor. It only needs one encounter.
Researchers studying the species have watched primates try to raid a bullet ant nest for food.
One sting, and that animal never goes near that tree again. Not eventually, not after a few tries, immediately, and forever.
Others nearby seem to learn just from watching, avoiding the same tree without ever getting stung at all, which honestly might be the most efficient warning label in the entire animal kingdom.
Because after that one encounter, every animal remembers the mistake.
That's the entire strategy. It doesn't need to kill its enemies. It just needs to make sure they never forget it. For a small creature in a very dangerous forest, being unforgettable can matter more than being deadly.
If you had to pick one of these evolutionary superpowers to survive in the wild, which one are you choosing? Drop it in the comments below. Next time an ant crosses your kitchen counter, maybe don't reach for the paper towel quite so fast. You're not looking at a bug. You're looking at a few million years of trial and error, walking around like it's no big deal. It survived, not because it was the strongest thing out there, but because evolution taught it exactly what it needed to become.